All right, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, well, it's good to be here in Gympie, and of course we know that Gympie was hit very hard with the recent flooding event, the second worst flood in Gympie's history, and it's wonderful to be joined with the Mayor, Minister de Brenni, of course the Police Commissioner is with us as well, and the Mayor will give an update about how everything's going. But can I say from the outset a big thank you to his entire local disaster management team. I had the opportunity to meet with them today. They have done an outstanding job, and everyone just working together in the best interests of this community. We currently have about 600 people without their power at the moment across out of 6,000. So a huge effort, and we've just welcomed some of the crews from Bundaberg that have come down to help, and essentially there are crews from the north of this state that are coming down to help in the southeast. And just how we send crews from the southeast up to the north when they're going through cyclones, it's great to see this level of cooperation and sending people where it's needed the most. Now about 2,000 homes and businesses have been impacted by these floods, and the initial assessments is that, and of course not all of the assessments have been done yet, but at least 160 have major impacts to them. So we will be working with the community, working with Glenn over the coming weeks and months to rebuild back this Gympie area. And of course you only have to drive through to see the impact, not just on the roads, but of course all of the different sporting fields as well, the parks, and of course the businesses and the houses as you spread out. And of course there was a lot of concern at the Queensland Disaster Management Committee when we realised that the floods could also block off different sections of Gympie, and that evacuation order was made. So a big thank you to the community. Some tough days ahead. Some people have lost a lot of things, and it is going to be tough with that road to recovery. So what I might do is I'll hand over to the Mayor to say a few words about Gympie itself, and I think Mick will want to talk a little bit more about the power restoration. He's been up to the water treatment plant. It was great that came back online. And then I'll give the other updates for around the state. But we might deal with these issues here locally first, if you don't mind. So I'll hand over to the Mayor. Glenn.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you for coming today and letting the people in this part of Queensland know that the government cares, and I know that means a hell of a lot to them. I'd also like to thank Minister Brenni for his the work that he's done over the last couple of days, particularly with the issue around power to our water treatment plant. That was a massive issue that we faced during this disaster, and to have Mr. de Brenni a phone call away was a comforting element to what we were doing. Also, I'd like to acknowledge Mitch. He was on the LMDG committee, doing a lot of work with the crews for Energex. But it has been a disaster or a flood that we haven't seen before in the Gympie region. Our floods normally involve heavy rain, water comes up. It's planned, it's predictable, but there was nothing planned or predictable about this event. We had massive downpours and inundations in different areas at different times, and water came up and receded and then came back up again. So I am exceptionally proud of the local government entity, Gympie Regional Council, and the staff that performed in difficult circumstances. We ran that facility on skeleton staff, probably half of what we should have had, and the staff that we had in there performed above and beyond what could have been expected. So as Mayor, I'm very grateful that they represent our region, and I'm very thankful for their efforts. I know there's a lot to do in the coming days, weeks and months, and actually years to get repairs done. Right now it's about clean-up, it's about removing debris and waste from the region, and also focusing on the small businesses that have suffered immensely during this event. There's a desperate need to show some care and compassion to these individuals who often will mortgage a kidney just to get involved and have a bit of an entrepreneurial go at life, and without some assistance to get back in, they've sort of worked their way through COVID. And now this event, it's quite likely that a lot won't get back into Mary Street. So in the coming time, we'll be talking with all the relevant people to see what can be done to assist them. They're good people, they're hard-working people. They love the region and they love a community, and we want to see them thrive and provide a service that they do through the businesses that they operate. So yeah, look, as Mayor, I'm just really proud, Premier, to have you here, Minister as well, and just exceptionally proud of our staff. Our acting CEO, Dave Lewis, was an absolute rock, a very steady hand on the wheel, and yeah, look, as much as no one, you don't get a lot of good stuff out of events like these. I can honestly say that in that disaster room, it was a very good feel, and if I had to go through something like this again, I'd want the same people there. So thank you, and thank you, Premier and Minister.
Thank you. Nick?
Well, it certainly has been an incredibly significant event on the power front across the course of this entire natural disaster. 140,000 properties across southeast Queensland have at one time or another been without that essential service of electricity, and it peaked at 57,000 homes at one particular time. Here in the community of Gympie, it was up as high as 6,000 properties without electricity. That's now down to around 600, so a tremendous job by all of the local agencies, and I also want to join with the Premier and the Mayor in singing the praises of the team here from Energex and extend a warm welcome to the Ergon crews that have come down from Bundaberg. In fact, we have crews arriving from Cairns, Townsville, Mackay and Rockhampton as well. They're arriving in Brisbane Airport today and across the course of Thursday and Friday, and they'll go out right across southeast Queensland to get power restored. Of course, work continues here to support households, but importantly, as the Mayor said, we want to support the economic recovery of this region as well. And so getting those businesses back operational as soon as possible is a priority for us. And if we look at the main street of Gympie here, those businesses have been significantly impacted. We now have 60% of power restored to those businesses. Now, the Premier mentioned just how important it is to ensure that critical services like drinking water have remained operational throughout the course of this significant weather event, and she's correct that it was a significant concern that when the power had to be disconnected there, whether we would get it on in time to maintain the flow of drinking water to households here. And so all credit to Mick, who's also the local ETU delegate here with Energex, his workmates working alongside the Mayor who were able to restore that. Driving into Gympie this morning, and from someone who, like me, is an out-of-towner, to understand the scale of what has happened here, I think what happened at the water treatment plant is a good example. The top of the power pole that fed the electricity into the water treatment plant is at 12 metres. The bottom of that power pole is another 10 metres above where the river is today. So somewhere in the vicinity of 22 to 25 metres above the river level, power lines went underwater and cut that power. And it's a real credit to the skill, the expertise of the locals here that was able to restore that power as soon as water levels were receding, and I want to congratulate all of the local crew. Just a few key messages for households and businesses here around electrical safety as we go through the clean-up effort. Certainly there are thousands of homes and businesses to restore, and it really makes us proud to be a Queenslander to see the community effort going in there. But we do ask people to be careful about going into your ceiling if you've got a water leak there. Remember, solar panels could still be live even though your power may be disconnected. Finally, we know that Operation Energise, this is the program that is led by the Electrical Trades Union in partnership with the Master Electricians and Energex, is in the process of mobilising. They'll be going door to door over the course of coming days to make sure that your home is safe to restore power. But can I just conclude by congratulating the entire Gympie, in fact the entire South East Queensland and Queensland community for working together through this recovery effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Mick. Now, we had a briefing from the Bureau this morning, and they'll be putting out alerts during the course of today and tomorrow, but if I could just take everyone through that just briefly. So, of course, there's still numerous flood warnings that continue across the southeast Queensland, with the general easing in some parts of the catchments. However, severe thunderstorms with large hail, damaging winds and locally heavy rainfall become likely around the southeast Queensland from today and persist over into the weekend. This could lead to localised rises in creeks and streams that respond quickly to heavy, short duration rainfall. There is a low probability but potential high impact scenario of isolated, very dangerous thunderstorms with giant hail, destructive winds and locally intense rainfall across southeast Queensland during Thursday afternoon and evening. So if I could urge everyone in the southeast to please tune in to radios, media outlets and listen to those Bureau of Meteorology updates. There is some concern about these very dangerous thunderstorms. So we are not over all of this yet. We're not out of the woods. There's still some concern out there, and if you could just please make sure that you are listening to those issues. We had our Queensland Disaster Management Committee meeting this morning. Of course, our reports this morning that Logan exceeded that 2017 ex-cyclone Debbie. One good piece of news out of that is that the bridges that we'd built back after Tropical Cyclone Debbie seem to have held out, which is comforting. In relation to Brisbane, the city peaked at 2.49 last night, and expected peak of up to 2.6 metre is possible with the high tide. Logan River, as I said, was 11.5 yesterday, above the 2017 peak post Cyclone Debbie. There's around 3,500 people without power there, and there are roads that are cut. So if you're around those areas, please take care. And if you do not have to be on the road around those areas, stay off the road so emergency crews can get through. Maryborough peaked at 10.3 metres on Monday night, below the 2013 post Oswald. Now, in terms of evacuation centres across the entire southeast, there are now 379, so you can see they've actually come down. In terms of resupply, we've had some isolated pockets, and we're getting food delivered there into Corona Downs and Mount Crosby. I think there's some help with the ADF happening there, and medical supplies are going into Bellbowery. Nick mentioned power. Can I remind people that if you have been impacted by the floods and the area has been declared a disaster area, there is immediate hardship assistance available of $180 per person, up to $900 for families. Minister Bailey gave an update on the radios about transport, but 26 out of the 33 bridges are open. You would have heard in the southeast those tolls are coming off until Monday. The Ipswich motorway, they were looking at opening that later today. The Centenary Highway has opened, which means that travel is a lot easier around those areas. And in relation to schools, all are open except for 81. So the Department of Education is doing a great job there. The ones that aren't open are due to water damage and also to no electricity. I'm also pleased to report that the ADF are also sending in assistance. The crews have arrived here in Gympie. They're also going to Maryborough. They'll also be probably going out to Grantham, I'm advised, and Somerset to help out. So we are very thankful for that support as well. I'll just hand over to the Commissioner, and then we're happy to take some questions.
Thank you, Premier. My heart goes out to all of the people in Gympie who've been impacted by this very, very significant event. Can thank you sincerely to all of the community for such an incredible response. To the police, the emergency services, to the local council, at the district level, to Energex and the Ergon staff that are here as well. A sincere thank you. You have made an incredible difference. Tragically, there has been now 9 deaths in total as a result of this weather event in Queensland. And as you know, a couple of those are from the Gympie area from last week. And despite a lot of searches in the Brisbane River, we still have one person outstanding from this event. The QPS has launched a preventative approach, an operation to combat the crime that we have seen in some areas occurring as a result of the event. It is called Operation Uniform NASH, and that is an additional 124 staff across the entire southeast. So wherever there has been an impact as a result of this event, and some of those businesses and areas are still evacuated, additional staff will come into those areas from our specialist areas such as Railway Squad, Dog Squad and other specialist officers. So not just a land-based event, but also many staff on the water as well. As you can appreciate, some areas still have a lot of water around them. As has been touched by the Premier, there is severe storms coming in the next 24 hours to 2 days, even into the weekend. Please, I ask you that you listen to the authorities, go on the Bureau website, listen to whatever channel you listen to. It's incredibly important to be in tune and aware of your circumstances. Everywhere is incredibly saturated, so any water, we could have flash flooding, and we've seen that occur throughout this entire event. Once again, a sincere thank you, amazing response. Congratulations, and I know that the hard work probably starts from here on in, but your response has been second to none. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. I'm happy to take some questions.
Should the government have encouraged people to work from home in the southeast today, given long traffic queues across the southeast?
Oh, we've actually said that if people can return to work safely, they can. Like our train network is slowly starting to come back. Some of it will be open tomorrow. The Centenary Highway was cut the other day and the Ipswich motorway, so that actually stopped a lot of people from moving around. It is very slow still to get around, so if people don't have to be on the roads, they should think about their movements and discuss it with their employer. And likewise with schools, where it's safe for parents to take their children to school, that's a good thing, because there are some parts that have been not impacted by this severe weather event.
You've talked a lot about support for businesses. What's the government doing to support the homes that have been impacted and the residents?
Yeah, so what happens now is they do the rapid assessment. So the rapid assessment work is actually started, and they'll go around, and that's personally going around and doing the inspections, and they'll work out whether it's been water over to the floorboards or water in, that destroys homes and businesses, and then we'll be working with the federal government about initiating our supports.
Why is the Sunshine Coast not included in the emergency Palaszczuk funding that's been announced? Obviously, Gympie and
My understanding that the Sunshine Coast, it's with the federal government at the moment, that the state government has put that forward, so we're waiting to hear from the federal government. But fingers crossed, it basically should be a blanket across from Fraser Coast down. So many communities were impacted. We put it forward to the federal government. We just need a tick off from the federal government. I'm quite sure it'll get approved in the next day or so. Yeah. Look, that's a great question, and it's something that the Deputy Premier and I discussed yesterday. So for viewers and listeners at home, the question was whether or not WellCamp could be used to house people who have been impacted. I think it would be difficult for families where they have a close-knit community with schools. But, WellCamp is there. It is there to be utilised, and I understand some families are utilising it at the moment. And, for example, if there are people who are single or couples and their home has been completely devastated, and that is an option open to them, it would be something that they could consider in the short term. So we'll talk to the families impacted, but it's there to be utilised, and there is some spare capacity at the moment, so we'll continue to work with the local governments. Okay. See how busy it is here? This work's happening everywhere across the southeast. It's amazing. Okay, so they've just come out from checking the power lines and the damage on the power lines. So great work happening. So a big thank you to everyone who's responding to this huge event. Okay, I'll take a couple more.
What's this latest flood crisis reveal to you about what needs to happen to minimise or stop future flooding throughout Brisbane?
Oh, well, I think there's issues across the board that, you know, when you have an extreme weather event like this, the disaster management groups that exist across with the different councils, they work incredibly hard, and I'm really impressed with the way in which they communicate and get people set up and respond. So that's the key. And then secondly, what we've done is we've actually included all of the mayors on our Queensland disaster management meetings as well. So they are allowed to ask specific questions, or what they can do is speak directly, and most of them do. They speak directly to the Bureau of Meteorology and the hydrologists as well to help with their mapping. So all of that has come out of years of experience in terms of dealing and responding to natural disasters.
And with more natural disasters predicted with climate change, should
Yep.
Queenslanders expect to pay more to include disaster assistance?
Well, I think during my time as Premier, I've seen and had to deal with more natural disasters than my predecessors. So we understand it's real. We understand that it does have an impact. But we also recognise that, you know, we've got to be there for communities as they respond. But this one is so large scale. Like I said previously, Tropical Cyclone Debbie was huge. It came down, but it went through quickly. And this one here sat across that southeast. And look, people can see the havoc it's actually causing in northern New South Wales as well, where they're having the biggest floods they've ever seen. So it's actually impacting a lot of the population.
Where are people going to live during the reconstruction effort, given the state's rental crisis? Has the state government considered any response to this problem?
Yeah, well, we just talked before that there's one issue that we're looking at. If people want to utilise well camp, there's capacity there. But also too, the Department of Housing works very closely with impacted families to see if they can help in the short term. And also too, we talk to real estate agents. A whole lot of work goes into making sure that families can stay together as much as they can. And this has happened for many, many years, dealing with a whole range of disasters, and the Department of Housing stands ready to help and assist those families.
People have said they were caught off guard by the weather event. Do you think there needs to be some sort of independent review into the event? That
always happens. After every event, it's stock standard that the Inspector of Emergency Management carries out that independent report, and it is then tabled in the Queensland Parliament. But let me say this was an extraordinary rain event, the likes of which we haven't seen, and you've seen across the state where many records have been broken. And anyone who went through it knows that we haven't seen anything like that for quite some time.
What's the plan for businesses in Gympie that are worried they're not going to survive? How soon can they expect to see money in their bank account?
Yeah, well, those assessments are happening at the moment, and then we will put together all of that information is collated. We put it all together, and then we send it off to the federal government, and then we put in place assistance for businesses to be able to apply for. So we'll be working very closely with them. We've done this before, and the federal government has said they're prepared to work with us on that.
As soon as Gympie flood is cutting through, will there be any planning or consideration given to a third bridge across the Mary River in the future, given that climate change is expected to impact floods in the future?
Look, we always look at every flood event, and we look at where, if there needs to be upgrades to rivers or bridges. Even driving up here today, we could see the work happening on the Bruce Highway, which is, you know, trying to flood-proof parts of that Bruce Highway, which is great to see, and of course that takes time. As I mentioned earlier with what happened in Logan, we actually rebuilt bridges, and they have now been able, because they were built back better, they were able to withstand this flood, which was higher than ex-tropical cyclone Debbie. So we will look at all of that. We'll talk to the council, but all of that will be put into the reports that go to government. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
I think we're actually going to say hello to the players.
Oh, great.